Hi everyone, welcome to the InDesign webinar. If you guys could just go into the chat box and let me know if you can hear me, then we can go ahead and get started. Perfect, thank you so much, Grant. All right, so I will be your host today. My name is Carly Nightinger. I'm the implementation manager here at LucidPress. And so I'll be hosting the webinar today, but I also have Tyson here with me as well.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm just a graphic designer on the LucidPress team, so I'll be here to help answer questions in the chat. So if you enter your question either into the chat box or into the Q&A down below, I'll be kind of answering any of those questions during the webinar.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tyson. Now, before we get started, this will be recorded. And so as you can see, there's a recording sign at the bottom. That means that after the recording has processed, you'll get sent the link for further review, and you can also share it with anyone on your team. One last note, we're going to be answering questions at the end. Tyson might answer you back in the Q&A section, but as far as verbally answering, that's going to wait until the very end. All right, so our goal here at LucidPress, and especially with the InDesign imports, is really to take your designs to the next level. And we do that through templates. They are transformative because they're scalable. You just have to create it one time, and then all of your users can use it, and they can edit whatever you choose to allow them to edit, or keep everything locked down. So that's just going to make your work so much easier, and it allows your end users to create on-brand content without putting all the stress on your marketing team or your graphic designers. So just a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. We already did the introductions. I'm going to show you the proper way to import your InDesign file into LucidPress. I'm also going to show you how to make some specific edits, pretty baseline edits that you'll more than likely run into. And then additionally, I'm going to show you how to add locking before you convert it to a template. So just real quick, a couple common items that we tend to see when people are getting started that they'll need to fix would be line spacing. Now, sometimes the spacing does not convert very well from InDesign to LucidPress. Now, keep in mind that these items, you are not going to run into them every single time that you import, but this is just a general overview of something you might run into. Also, font styles can be a little bit weird because different programs read fonts differently. One quick tip that I would recommend to have more control over the styles, the spacing, any of that, I heavily recommend separating out different texts into different boxes. So it's a little bit more work in the short term, but in the long term, if you need to go back and edit anything, it's going to be so much easier for you guys. Also, gradients can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but it's very easy to fix them. You just fix them in the fill section, and I can show you what that looks like. Also, images. So LucidPress supports JPEG and PNG formats. We do accept SVGs, but they are a little bit different. So what I usually recommend is making sure that all the photos in your InDesign file are in JPEG or PNG format. All right, so let's go ahead and practice. I'm going to pause my screen for just 1 second while I pull up an InDesign file that I created for this. All right. Now, if everybody can see my screen, this is just an example InDesign file that I created. It has a couple of different pages here. This is very similar to a lot of the designs that I see with lots of photos, lots of different text and different shapes. So let's get started with how you actually import. So once you have created this InDesign file and you're ready to move it into LucidPress, all you have to do is go to File and then Package. Now I'm actually going to share my entire screen so that you can see everything I'm doing. There you go. So go to File, Package, and this is really, really important. Make sure that it includes the IDML file because that's what you're actually going to be importing into LucidPress. And then definitely make sure to include the PDF. Now, speaking as someone who does this on a regular basis for my customers, it is so important to have that PDF because I may not have all the fonts and all the other assets that you have. So even if I open up the InDesign file and then convert it to a PDF, there might be some assets missing, some elements missing. And so it is really, really important that you include the PDF. So that way I can have a side-by-side comparison of how exactly it should look like. All right, I'm gonna pause my screen one more time. All right. And resume. Perfect. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like to actually import the design now. So you have packaged it all nicely. It has the IDML file and it also has the PDF. So at this point, you go into My Documents. You click on this icon right here. And as you can see, you're importing the IDML. All you have to do is click on Continue, Import, and then you're going to select the file that you want to import. Now I went ahead and did this for the design that I created. Now in the very beginning, if there are things missing like photos and fonts, it's going to have a pop-up and you can go ahead and upload those right off the bat. And it'll populate wherever it's missing. I went ahead and canceled that just so you could see what it looks like if you decide not to do that. So as you can see, there's little hazard signs all around. So I'm just going to show you that real quick. It looks like we might be working on some technical things in the background. All right, so I'm just going to start off with replacing images. So the image here is missing. So I can go to Find Missing Image, and it'll tell me the exact file that's missing. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to Links, and I'll just go ahead and update all of my photos so that it can immediately start populating. This is the pop-up that you would see in the very beginning. So there's multiple ways to bring it back up. So while it uploads, it's going to show the different green check marks. Now keep in mind that all of my photos were in JPEG format. Now if yours are in EPS or some I've seen are in the format of .ai and like all these different formats, that's okay. All you have to do is go back into your InDesign file, select that specific picture or element, and then convert it into a JPEG or a PNG element and bring it back in. That's usually what I do because some of my customers don't convert all of their photos over ahead of time. So as you can see, it automatically populated my images right into where they should be. Now on the rare occasion, sometimes it will randomly flip them for whatever reason. Sometimes it's a setting that you might have in InDesign. If you have an issue with photos flipping, make sure to select it, go to Layout, and then you can flip it here. It's super easy like that. Now moving over to fonts. So as you can see, this font file is missing. I'm going to click on Find Missing Fonts. Now this is actually something really good to point out. So Minion Pro is basically LucidPress's way of saying, I don't recognize this font. What happens is that a lot of InDesign files will have Adobe typekits or some other typekits that aren't going to be recognized, but usually the issue is with Adobe. In this case, if you decide to buy the license, you can always upload it later on into LucidPress. Or LucidPress does a really good job at finding an alternative. So it's going to be a free alternative typekit to whatever typekit you had from Adobe. So in this case, I'm not going to upload anything. Instead, I'm going to go here and say keep default font. Now this is actually very close to what I had anyway. Now if you see a red plus right here, that means that the text box is not big enough for what should be there. So all you have to do is click it and it'll automatically adjust everything for you. And so all you have to do is go through, decide if you want to find the missing font or keep the default font. And you can always select it and then go through our entire library. And we have really a ton, just a really robust library of fonts anyway. So odds are you'll be able to find an alternative font rather than going out and buying fonts for yourself. So just keep that in mind. Now, after you have gone through and you make sure that everything looks exactly how you want, this is going to be when you can start doing a couple different things before turning it into a template. So first off, you can start locking things down. This is going to be so helpful as you're sharing it with end users. Now, in the very beginning, most of my customers tend to keep things pretty locked down because they don't quite trust their end users to go all the way on brand yet, because the whole point of LucidPress is to make everyone a designer and to kick out that content that's on brand really quickly. So what I usually recommend is locking it down fairly heavily in the very beginning, but I can show you how to do that. So if you want to allow your users to switch out the photo, but you really don't want them to change the size or move it around, you select the element, go up to here, and you can just click on this, the size and position. Now this means that they can still change out the content so they can switch out a photo. So if you have a folder of stock photos that's available to them, they can use that. However, if you do not want them to change anything about this at all you have to do is click on this button here and it locks it down completely. That means they can't change the size, they can't move it around, and they also cannot change the photo itself. So what I usually see the fully locked down feature used for is going to be the logos, because you really don't want them switching out your logo, especially with a completely different color. You don't want them to increase it to this crazy size. So a lot of my customers will lock down the the logos, but give a little bit more legroom with this, with the photos themselves. Now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. And I'm going to go ahead and lock down the company name completely. So what your users can do when they open up their copy of the document, they can go over to View and then go down to Locking Restrictions. This will show them every single thing that's locked down in your InDesign file, in your LucidPress file, and exactly how it's locked down. So if they hover above it, it'll tell them exactly what's locked down and what they can change. Now, alternatively, we do also have a really great collaborative feature that you can use as well. So for example, say you lock down their email or this whole text box. Well, that's okay, unless they have a super long last name. Say you had their name here and it's in a specified text box and it's a specified size. That'll probably work for most people, but if they have a really long last name, what you can do is actually comment and they can tag you. So they can either comment and tag you, or as you're going through this whole process, if you want to leave notes for everybody, say you want to give them some flexibility with changing out this photo, but only from this certain folder, then you can select this element. You can go down to note and leave a note that will translate over to this document becoming a template. So what that means is that as soon as you put in this note, as you can see, this icon shows up right here. When you convert that document into a template, they click make a copy from that template. That document is going to have the exact notes that you have on it. So this is really helpful for communicating how exactly this document should be used to stay on brand. So that allows them some flexibility with staying on brand, but also keeps it fairly locked down. Now, just a side note, as you're going through this whole process, if you forget where something is at, or maybe you have a question about a certain feature, go over to Feature Find, and you can type in exactly what you're looking for. Now there's going to be this animated arrow here that will give you suggestions based on what you hover above. Or if you click on one of the lines that has a question mark and you select that, it's going to bring you to the Help Center, to the exact article that's going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to use that feature. All right, so after you have locked down everything, and now you might want to use one of our data features. So we have something called Smart Fields, which is really helpful for bringing in information about the user or your company without having to copy and paste over and over. So if you're creating a document and you want it to populate the person's name, well, all you have to do, I'm going to go ahead and add something right here. So I want their first name and last name. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and then right-click and go to Smart Fields. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of Smart Fields here. This is my company account. But if you go to Profile, that is going to populate the information for the person who is logged in at that time. So if my name was Jane Doe, it's going to populate my name when I go to Profile and then first name. So as you can see, it populated my first name. This is really helpful because that way you don't have to create a copy of the document for every single person that logs in. Now, if I wanted to put in something like, I'm going to extend this again, the website. This is something that you don't necessarily want to change based on person. It should be standard across the entire team. So when you select this, oh, sorry about that, I'm having some technical issues. There we go. So when you go to Smart Fields and go to team, this is going to populate some team information. So it can be the city, the website, any team information that's going to be the same across every single person in the company. Now, I do see this for addresses and websites, of course, but another thing that I actually see this a lot in is a legal disclosure. So you're going to want to use the Team Smart Fields for really important information that if it happens to change, you do not want to track it down and copy and paste. You want it to be updated as soon as it changes. And so that's why it's really helpful for the websites and the legal disclosures and things like that, because if you change it in the back end, it's going to change it across all the documents that have this smart field. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you on this page is how to create a page template. So you can turn the entire document into a template, but you can also turn a specific page into a template as well if you think that you're going to copy the style throughout the document as you're expanding it. And all you have to do for that is select the page, right-click, and then create template from the page. All right, so now I'm all set. My document is edited exactly how I want it to look. Everything's locked down, so nobody can change anything that I don't want them to change. Now, all I have to do is go into my documents, click on these three dots here, and then convert it to a brand template. Now, mine is a little bit different than yours, so it's just showing convert to template. But on yours, you're going to see convert to brand template and convert to template. You are definitely going to want to use convert to brand template, because that's going to allow you the opportunity to share with your entire team. Now, keep in mind that you still don't have to share it with everybody. When you click on convert to template, you're going to give it a category and then save it. At that point, it's going to be housed in your templates area here. But when you're sharing any document or template, you can share with an individual, with your entire team, or with a specific group. Now, breaking users up into those groups and teams, that's something that is covered in the admin courses that you guys have most likely already taken, so you already know how to do that. So as you're sharing it, you can select who has access to that, and of course you can always retract that access as well. Now, the last thing I'm going to cover with documents versus templates is keep in mind that a document, if you share a document with someone, they are changing your copy, the original copy. If you share a template with someone, they are making a copy of that template and all they're editing is their version. So that's the main distinction between the two. All right, so going back to here, we have this checklist here for you. So make sure to add smart fields if that's something that's important to you. Provide any notes that you think would be helpful for your end users. You can create page templates as you see fit, but most importantly, don't forget your locking. This is going to be so important for you guys to be able to kick out that content that's on brand really quickly. So at this point, I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have, or Tyson, if you have anything to add as well. All right, perfect. So it looks like he's been doing a great job with covering everything. And I really do believe that this is pretty straightforward. It's a little bit scary off the bat when you're first getting started, but after one or two files, you feel like a master. And of course, as always, I'm available to you. We have a robust help center available as well. And then we do host these webinars every month. So no matter what, you guys will be covered. And last but not least, we do have a resource library available to you with everything regarding the InDesign import. And it looks like we actually have one question. So as far as the vectors go, I believe that is something that's current. So the question was, is there a chance that the vector or EPS files will be integrated? Right now, I know that there's some discussion of that, but Tyson, do you have a comment on that?
Specifically for EPS, I know there has been discussion, but for the most part, EPS has basically just a lot of issues when it comes to loading them into like a web-based, like a browser. But if you really do want to stick with a vector, I highly recommend staying with SVGs. If you have SVGs in your InDesign file, for the most part, when you import that InDesign file, those SVGs will import as well. And so it'll stay as that vector file. There is a way also to upload, like if you have like an icon or if your logo is an SVG, there is an option to upload it in Lucipress as an SVG. And so I feel like that's kind of the best workaround instead of EPS. EPS is definitely the most common. So I feel like almost every InDesign file that we work on, we do see EPS files a lot. So that is something we're very aware of. So great question.
Excellent. We do have a little bit of time left, so maybe just a couple minutes to see if anybody else has questions. Otherwise, the next steps will be that you'll be receiving a follow-up email after the recording has been processed. You'll receive the recording and you can share it out with anybody in your team. All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me, and I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to answer your specific use cases through email. Thank you, guys.